Welcome to Casualty Notification Procedures for Department of the Army civilian employees. This video will provide you a broad overview of the Army civilian casualty notification process. For the purpose of casualty reporting for civilians, a casualty is defined as any person lost to an organization by reason of having been declared dead, and an excused absence as the whereabouts of the employee are unknown, missing, injured, or ill. Deceased is a casualty status applicable to an employee who is either known to have died, determined to have died on the basis of conclusive evidence, or declared dead on the basis of a presumptive finding of death. Excused absence, whereabouts unknown, is an administrative status applicable only to civilian employees. This status is used when the responsible commander suspects the employee may be a casualty. The employee's absence is involuntary, but sufficient evidence is not available to conclude if the employee is missing or deceased. Missing is a status that an employee is not present at the duty location due to apparent involuntary reasons and the employee's location is unknown. Seriously ill or injured is a casualty status of a person who is very sick or injury is severe, so illness or injury requires medical attention and a medical authority declares that death is possible but not likely within 72 hours, and or the severity of the injury is such that it is permanent and life-altering. Army Regulation 638-8, Army Casualty Program, governs U.S. Army casualty operations, including casualty reporting, casualty notification, and casualty assistance. AR 638-8 applies to the regular Army, the Army National Guard, U.S. Army Reserve, and certain Army civilian employees. AR 638-8 Chapter 2 addresses the Army casualty reporting process, including Army civilian employees who are covered by Army Regulation 638-8. Army civilian employees covered by Army Regulation 638-8 are: 1. Army civilian employees paid from appropriated funds that die during travel status or a temporary duty status within the United States. 2. Army civilian employees paid from appropriated funds while assigned, deployed, or in a temporary duty status outside the United States. 3. Army civilian employees who become casualties as the result of hostile activity within the United States. 4. Non-appropriated fund or NAF Army civilian employees who become casualties outside the continental United States or while in transit to or from the U.S. And 5. Family members of Army civilian employees, both appropriated fund and non-appropriated fund civilian employees, who are on travel or PCS orders and residing with the Army civilian employee stationed outside of the continental United States or while in transit to or from the United States. Here is the overall process. For a casualty of reportable Army civilian employees covered by Army Regulation 638-8, a casualty notification officer assigned by Casualty Assistance Centers will provide casualty notification and condolences to the next of kin. Most Army civilian employees are not covered by Army Regulation 638-8, and in this case, local law enforcement will provide casualty notification to the next of kin. There are two types of notification procedures based on casualty status. One casualty status is deceased or excused absence, whereabouts unknown, and the other status is seriously injured or ill. 1. When a reportable Army civilian employee is identified as deceased or excused absence, whereabouts unknown status, the employer's supervisor or organization reports the Army civilian casualty to the local Casualty Assistance Center. The local Casualty Assistance Center generates the casualty report and sends to the Casualty and Mortuary Affairs Operation Division, CMAOD. The CMAOD identifies the location of next of kin and alerts the Casualty Assistance Centers with the geographic areas of responsibility where the next of kin reside. After the Casualty Assistance Center receives the initial casualty report and authorization from the CMAOD, notification will be provided to the next of kin. The supporting Casualty Assistance Center will appoint a Casualty Notification Officer and conduct the notification with appointed chaplains from the local installation. The CMAOD will also apprise the Assistant G1 for civilian personnel for DA civilian casualties. 2. When a reportable Army civilian employee's casualty status is identified as seriously injured or ill, the employee's supervisor or organization reports the Army civilian casualty to the local Casualty Assistance Center, so the local Casualty Assistance Center can report to the CMAOD. The organization will make notification to primary next of kin unless the unit commander defers to the CMAOD. Notification for injured and ill casualties will be accomplished telephonically unless the next of kin doesn't have a telephone. For Army civilian employees not covered by AR 638-8, local law enforcement will provide casualty notification to the next of kin. For all Army civilian employees regardless of AR coverage, a deceased Army civilian employee's supervisor reports the death to the Servicing Civilian Personnel Advisory Center, CPAC, and verify next of kin listed on DD Form 93. CPAC notifies the Army Benefits Center, Civilian, ABCC, and ABCC immediately assigns a benefits specialist to assist the next of kin and/or beneficiaries listed on beneficiary forms. The assigned benefit specialist at ABCC will contact the next of kin within 24 hours or the next business day and assist the next of kin and/or beneficiaries with death benefits and entitlements, and collects the claims documentation for agency certification and forwards them to the respective offices, such as the Office of Personnel Management, Defense Finance Accounting Service, Office of Federal Employee Group Life Insurance, and Thrift Savings Plan for final processing. For NAF employees, headquarters of MCOM G9 NAF Personnel Services Division, NAF Benefits Office, and the CPAC NAF Human Resources Directorate will assist the next of kin and/or beneficiaries with death benefits and entitlements. For a timely casualty notification, supervisors are required to ensure all Army civilian employees complete DD Form 93 and update annually. Supervisors retain hard copies of DD Form 93, upload in AutoNOAA, and provide the copies to the servicing CPAC or Human Resources Office. When a casualty occurs at the duty location, supervisors immediately notify the respective Garrison Casualty Assistance Center, the organizational commanders, servicing CPAC or Human Resources Office, and the supervisory chain of command. Supervisors are also required to prepare the time and attendance sheet on the first workday after the casualty and arrange for the turn-in of any government properties such as government credit card, civilian ID, issued equipment, etc. For an accurate casualty notification, Army civilian employees are required to complete DD Form 93 and update them annually. Army civilian employees are also required to periodically update beneficiary forms such as SF 1152, SF 2808, SF 3102, SF 2823, and TSP 3, so death benefits and entitlements such as retirement annuity, unpaid compensation, life insurance benefits, and TSP death benefits go to the designated beneficiaries. Here are some scenario-based examples of the Army casualty notification process. Scenario number 1. Mrs. Jones worked at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and passed away at home from natural causes on Saturday. Her husband, Mr. Jones, was present when she passed away. He called her supervisor on Monday morning to notify her organization of her passing. Mrs. Jones is not covered by AR 638-8 since she was not on travel status, not assigned to Oconus, and not deceased to hostile activity within the U.S. Her supervisor, Colonel Walker, will be required to notify the servicing CPAC. The CPAC then notifies ABCC of the civilian employee's casualty, and ABCC assigns a benefit specialist to contact Mr. Jones or beneficiaries within 24 hours or on the next business day to begin administering death benefits and entitlements. Scenario number 2. Ms. Stevens is a Department of the Army civilian employee assigned to Korea and passed away following a car accident. Ms. Stevens is covered by AR 638-8 since she was assigned to Oconus. The Casualty Assistance Center in Korea reviewed her DD Form 93 and found she was survived by one daughter, Denise, living in Indianapolis, Indiana. Ms. Stevens' supervisor notifies the Casualty Assistance Center in Korea. The Casualty Assistance Center in Korea notifies the CMAOD, and CMAOD notifies the Fort Knox Casualty Assistance Center to launch a uniform notification team to the daughter's house to conduct an in-person notification. The Korea Casualty Assistance Center will ensure the remains are prepared and transported to the daughter at no cost. Ms. Stevens' supervisor also notifies the servicing CPAC of her passing, and the servicing CPAC notifies ABCC. ABCC assigns a benefit specialist after the notification is provided to the next of kin. The assigned benefit specialist will contact the next of kin and/or beneficiaries within 24 hours or on the next business day and assist them with the death benefits and entitlements. The benefits specialist at ABCC will collect the claims documentation for Army certification and forward them to the respective offices such as OPM, DFAS, OFEGLI, and TSP for final processing. Scenario number 3. Mr. Smith works at Fort Carson, Colorado Springs, Colorado. He's on TDY at Fort Drum, New York. While TDY, he suffers a heart attack, and after being transported to a local hospital, he unfortunately dies. After finding personal contact information in his belongings, the hospital personnel contact local police who identify contact information about his spouse. Local law enforcement contacts Mrs. Smith to officially inform her of the circumstances of her husband's death. Subsequently, Mrs. Smith notifies Mr. Smith's supervisor. Mr. Smith is covered by AR 638-8 since he was on TDY within the U.S. Mr. Smith's supervisor notifies the Fort Carson Casualty Assistance Center. The Fort Carson Casualty Assistance Center notifies CMAOD, and CMAOD then notifies Fort Drum Casualty Assistance Center that they have a deceased DA civilian in their area of responsibility who is covered by AR 638-8 and requires a casualty report. After the initial casualty report from Fort Drum Casualty Assistance Center and authorization from the CMAOD, the Fort Carson Casualty Assistance Center sends a uniformed casualty assistance officer to Mrs. Smith to offer condolences and serve as a liaison between her and the Fort Drum Casualty Assistance Center while transporting Mr. Smith's remains from Watertown, New York to Mrs. Smith at no cost to the family. His supervisor also notifies the servicing CPAC, and they notify ABCC, who will assist with the civilian benefits and entitlements. Since Mr. Smith is also a military retiree, the Casualty Assistance Officer and Casualty Assistance Center will assist the next of kin with additional VA benefits and military funeral honors. This is the overall process of casualty notification for Army civilian employees who are not covered by Army Regulation 638-8. This is the overall process of casualty notification for Army civilian employees who are covered by Army Regulation 638-8. Listed on this slide are references utilized for this casualty briefing. We thank you for watching this video and hope to have provided important information to our Army family.